the best demonstration to show the power of Tailwind CSS would be to create some kind of custom design system. So I got several elements there, a title, subtitle, paragraph, anchor, button. Here I got an input text that we don't see, got a checkbox and a select there, okay? And all of this is currently on my Next.js application. So I imported Tailwind in my global.css file. And what's happening there is that it's empty. There is absolutely no style, no size, no color, nothing. And I would have to create everything from the beginning. So what we could do at first is to add classes to these elements. And later we would move those classes into custom classes inside our CSS. Okay, that could be an example. So let's start. Title, subtitle, and paragraph should have 3 different sizes. So what I would do is to go there and to add a first class name to my H1. And let's say that I would have a text 2XL. All right. Then what I would do also here is to put a text XL to my subtitle, and to my paragraph I would have a text base, even though I know that it's already on text base. We can see that there's a little difference between the sizes, but it's not very big actually. What we would like to have is a bigger difference. So I'm going to get back, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to get up on the size of the XL. So I'm going to put 3XL because I really want to have a difference between the subtitle and the title. And finally, there we go, we see that there is a difference. So what I can do is just inspecting, okay, my first element, and we see that the font size is 1.875 rem, okay? And then the XL is 1.25 rem, and on the paragraph is 1 rem. So the other elements that we got down, they keep basically the same size, okay? And right now I'm zooming just for this course, but on the regular size it's going to be like this. So we can see that the paragraph, the anchor, the button will have basically the same size. We just want to make a difference on the title and subtitle. So I'm going to zoom again, and there we go. And what we would like to have is a weight, a different weight for the title and subtitles in comparison to the paragraph. So I would go to my documentation and I will quick search there and I will type weight. And here we see that I got font weight. So I'm going to click on that and I can see that I got different type of weight. So I'm going to zoom and I got bold, semi-bold, which could be cool. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to get back and here I'm going to add my font bold. Okay. And down there, I'm going to add my font semi-bold. And I think this is what I want to have. All right. So I'm going to get back and there we go. I got a title with a font bold and a subtitle with a font semi-bold. Okay. The thing is now, what we would like to have there is some space between everything is really stuck. So what I would do, I would check for the margin bottom. By default, the H1, H2, H3, H4, they got margin bottom. With Tailwind CSS, everything is reset from the start. So here I'm going to add basically a margin bottom, and I'm going to start by MB2, okay? I'm going to save that, it comes on the beginning, and I'm going to update, and we see that suddenly I got space that has been created under my title. All right. I want to have also a margin bottom on my subtitle. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to do the same, but I'm not going to do MB2, because if I do MB2 exactly like my main title, I will have a problem in my spaces, okay? I will have a problem with this design system later. It will not make something nice. What I need to have is, if I have a lower font or a lower font size, actually, what I would do is to lower exactly also the margin bottom. So I would put, instead of 2, I would put 1. And when I get back, yeah, we see that it's a bit better. All right. So that's cool. Now, if I unzoom again and I see the result, well, I think it could fit to a lot of blog posts that we can read. We got space to breathe for the elements. All right. So the thing is now I'm writing all this code there, and if later, for instance, at the end, okay, I would have another title, okay, and I would save there. This is another title, and I would have another subtitle after that, okay. The thing is, though, right now we don't get first the margin top, but it's supposed to come from another piece of content that we could put later. The thing is that I would have to copy paste all the time my class name, okay? And instead of doing that, let's just say that all our H1 will have these classes, okay? We want to have all our H1 to get these classes. So what I can do, I can go back actually to my global.css file. And here I can select the current layer I'm working on. And this one is layer base, okay? And inside this layer base, actually, I would add all the HTML tags and all the CSS classes that I'm going to create or to use to modify them. So let me give you an example. Right now we are under HTML. So here if I type HTML and I open my curly brackets and I put, for instance, like a color of red, and I'm saving, and I get back to my app, suddenly the color red is applied to all my HTML document. The CSS layer there has been applied on because the sheet is imported inside my Next.js application, and I got my color red. All right, that's cool. But now what I can do, actually, I can say, yeah, my H1, it has to get these classes. So I can go there and type H1, and I could type, of course, font weight, bold, etc., etc. However, I can use apply. Apply from Tailwind help me to import the classes. So what I can do is just taking these and I can import them directly there. So I'm going to put that, and there we go. Now what is going to happen is that all H1 of my document will have those class applied. So to be sure about that, I can remove actually, okay, the class for my H1 up there, and I can remove it also down there. And we are supposed to keep the same properties, and it is working. So if I inspect my title there, I've got the margin bottom, the font size, the line 8, the font weight that are applied from my app underscore global CSS. Sorry, I gotta move this. There we go. Everything that has been applied from my app global CSS file. All right, so I'm going to get back there. I'm going to remove this HTML for now because I'm not going to use it yet. So the difference now is I don't need actually to specify that here actually I want to add inline styles on my HTML tag, okay? And I think I'm going to do the same with H2. So I'm going to copy paste this, get back, and I'm going to say, hey, finally with H2 now, I want to apply those classes. So I'm going to type apply, and I apply those classes, all right? Now I can remove this down there, and there we go. Of course, if later you will have several subtitles, several titles, paragraph, you would create classes inside your HTML tag, or you could do the opposite, creating that first the classes and then apply your style. And later it will apply automatically to your HTML tag the CSS that you wrote in global.css. So basically I can also remove this, and there we go. And we see that I don't have any class written in my elements, and I already got my style applied. Let's pass to the anchor. Here we've got an anchor, and there is no href. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put an href to this anchor, and let's say that we want to go to https:/freecodecamp.org. And I just have the cursor pointer applied as a class. What I would like to have actually is that all my anchor got a specific class and style apply. So I'm going to use apply, and I want them to be underlined. So when I get back, suddenly I got an underline. And I want them to have a specific color. So what I can do is to go on the colors, okay, of Tailwind CSS. So I go on customizing colors, and there we go. We've got here plenty of examples. And what I would like to have is some kind of blue color like this. So what I could do is get back, and I have installed IntelliSense with Tailwind. It's the plugin that I'm using right now that gives me actually, there we go, this one, that gives me actually the classes that I can use with Tailwind. So when I'm going to type the text blue color, here down there we see that I got all the colors that are available. If you had later colors in your tailwind.config.js, this IntelliSense extension will understand that this color has to be recorded and going here into the autocomplete. So I'm going to put text blue 600. And when I get back, there we go. I got my anchor on blue. But let's say that when I pass my mouse on it, I would like to have a text, yes, purple, okay? So what I can do is here adding directly, okay, sorry, here, hover, and I want to have text purple and another color 500, all right? So when I get back and I pass my mouse on it, suddenly it passes to the purple color, all right? The thing is here, I want it to be smooth. I can just add transition, the transition class here, to say, yeah, I want that. I got a nice transition, okay, when I pass my mouse on it. And we see it, it's a little detailed, but it's working a lot on the experience. There we go, we've got an anchor that has its own style. Let's say that I want to change maybe the decoration. So I'm going to go on the text decoration here, and I'm going to get back there, and I got text decoration style. And there we go. Let's say that I want to have a decoration wavy on every link of my website. So what I'm going to do, of course, is to add the decoration wavy. And there we go. I got a nice decoration wavy added there. I want to work on the offset, so the size between the text and the decoration. So I can use underline offset, and I'm going to put underline offset, and I'm going to put 4 to start. Let's work now on the button, okay? So the thing is that I will have several buttons on my application, and those buttons will have very different behavior. What I want to do, so I don't want to target all buttons. I want to target buttons with classes. So here I'm going to add a class name, and here it's going to be btn to start, because all my buttons are going to have a specific basic class to start. So right now I'm on CSS. Of course, with SCSS you could do nested CSS, but here, just for this course, I'm going to stay on CSS. So here, button, okay, I will apply a class, and let's just start by a basic thing. The basic thing is that we started with a blue color for our anchors. And let's say that we want to stick to this blue color there. So what I can do is to say, yeah, apply, I want to add a BG blue and exactly the same color as the anchor. So when I get back, there we go, we've got the background, but we see that there's a problem because with our anchor, we've got the offset up there. It's not often that we're gonna have this anchor with the button there. So basically it's not really a problem. However, what we would like to deal with is the offset size there, okay? So we've got it there on the top. So I'm gonna get back, and what I can do is that I wrapped my button in the div. So I can just add some margin on the top and on the bottom, and this will be margin 4 to give us a little breath. And there we go. Okay, so we've got the button there, and our button, what is it? We want that every button gets the same proportion but not the same color. However, here it's a problem because I put BG blue 600. So I'm going to remove this BG blue 600, okay? And instead, I'm gonna work on the padding and the margin. But to do that, I first need to put a background for you to understand where is the padding and the margin. So actually, I'm going to create a second class, and I'm going to go there, and I'm going to get back on my button, and I'm going to hide the button primary. Okay, button primary, because if you want to do Sass, you will have nested CSS. So here I'm just going to add this way. There we go. And here, this is where I can add actually my BG blue 500. And when I get back, I got my BG blue 500. It was 600, sorry, not 500, 600. There we go. The thing is that we have button there, and I'm going to work now on the padding because I want my button to have rounded corners and some space on the top, on the left, on the right, on the bottom. So what I can do to start is to say the padding on the horizontal, and there I'm going to put a px4, and on the top I'm going to put a py3 to start. Okay, when I get back, there we go, I got this big button. Maybe there's too much space, so I can still work on the top and the bottom. And there we go, we've got something nice. What I want to have also is a rounded LG because I want it to be a bit rounded. And there we go, that's really cool. Now let's create another button. So I'm going to copy paste this division with the button there, and I'm going to create a button secondary. So here I'm going to say this is a primary button, this is a secondary button. So we got now two different buttons, and there we go. When I update, we see that suddenly we inherited from the BTN class, but not from the primary. So what I could do is get back there, and I could create this button secondary, open there, and here I'm going to apply another color. So I'm going to apply, for instance, we've got slate, and I can say that I want to have some kind of gray button this way. And when I get back, there we go. But here, there's a problem. There's a problem with the color of the text. So for both of them, we're going to add a text white property. And all the two buttons will be suddenly on text white. That's great. Now let's work that when we passes our mouse on it, we want them to be on the color under the value we gave before. So we can get back there and type hover, and I want to have a BG blue, but this time let's try with 500. So when I pass my mouse, there's this color that is slightly changing. Okay, we see that the color is slightly changing. And again, like for the anchor, okay, we want to have something smooth. So what we can add is transition at the end. So I'm adding transition, and when I update, there's a little transition there. And if I want to work on the delay of the transition, so I can type transition timing function. What I can do is here working on the duration. I can say that I want the duration to be applied. So I get back, I got my button, and I want the duration to be applied on my BG primary. So here, there we go. So duration 300, and when I pass my mouse, we see that it's slightly better. But now for our secondary button, it's a bit a problem because we will have also to write all those classes that we've got there. And basically what we would like to do is simply to say, hey, on button hover, I will have this transition and duration all the time. So what I can do is to do that on button hover, I can, okay, apply, okay, transition and duration 300. All right. And basically, if you want to really specify the color, we could say that instead of having a hover on the color there, we could say just that we want to work on the opacity. So it's just a way of doing things, and I'm going to say that I will get an opacity of 80. So when I get back and I update, we see that it's working on the 2 button, which is amazing. But if you follow the course, you know that we don't need to do this other thing. What we can do is directly to put it up there. So I can put hover, and on hover I'm gonna put a transition effect. So here there is no semicolon, sorry, transition effect. And here on hover again, I want to have a duration 300, and on hover again I'm gonna have an opacity 80. So I'm going to remove this, and it's also working. So when I get back and I pass my mouse, there we go, our 2 buttons got this hover effect. All right, so that's really cool. We just created a design system for our button really quick. What we could do also is to work when they are disabled. So I'm going to get back there, and I'm going to add a new button. And here this new button will be actually on disabled. Okay, so I'm going to copy paste this, and I'm going to go there, and this is a disabled button, and let's put it into our primary. What we need to do is to say that the button is disabled. So I put the disable property on the button, and when I get back, nothing is happening. Instead that I don't get the cursor pointer anymore, I just got the mouse that I can pass on it, and on the other they are able. Well, now what we want to have is a gray button, and we don't want to have this opacity effect anymore. So I'm going to get back into my CSS, and here I got my button, and I'm going to type disabled, and I want to have a BG slate of 400, for instance. So when I get back, suddenly my button is gray, but I still got this hover effect, and I don't want it anymore. So I can stack the modifiers. So I can say that on hover, and if it's disabled, I finally want the opacity 100. So I want it to be full, and I don't want to have this opacity anymore. And there we go. When I pass my button, it's disabled. I cannot have any hover effect anymore. And actually this gray is too gray, okay? A disabled button is supposed to have an opacity on it. So I'm going to get back, and on the color of BG slate, I'm going to say /50, and I'm going to update. And 50 is not enough. Actually, I gotta go to /30, and I think it's good. Okay, there we go. Now we've got this button that is disabled in comparison of the others. Okay, here we've got an input, and we don't got anything around it. And the first thing that we can see is that when I click on it, there is this outline, this blue outline, and I wish we could remove it. So here, what I can do is add a class name, which would be actually here, outline known. The outline known class will remove, okay, will remove when I click on it. Okay, that's good, but we don't see it anymore, so that's a problem. Actually, I'm going to get back on my globals CSS there, and up there I'm going to put input, and inside type and text. There we go. For now, I'm just going to start with that. So I'm going to apply outline known, and I'm going to apply also border, because I want that my input has a border. And naturally, we've got this nice border, okay, which is not very, very nice. What we would like to have is maybe a border color more gray. So I'm going to put just a bit more of gray. So border slate 300, and there we go. That's so cool. That's nice. Now I'm going to add some rounded LG, and maybe rounded SM would be enough. Okay, yeah, because as you see, rounded LG, it's too big. What I want to have is rounded SM. Yes, I think that's good. Okay, we don't want to have something too aggressive, too rounded. All right, but the thing is, now we don't get space. We see that the text is actually beginning right on the left, actually, totally on the left, and right on the border. So what I want to do is to add some padding. So I'm going to add a bit more of padding at first. So here I'm going to apply px2. Okay, so I got a padding on the left and on the right. Now I'm going to add a padding on the top. And remember, as I told you, try to work with double values most of the time to get something more clear. Okay, if I unzoom and I get back to 100, here we see that I get an update, and maybe this px is a bit too much, okay? It's maybe a bit too much. Maybe I should put a px1, and finally what I can put is just to put a p1. It depends on what you want to do, but this input should be good. Okay, all right, that's cool. Now let's get back and let's create a new input text, but this time it's going to be disabled. What's gonna happen if our input is disabled? By nature, our input disable is unclickable, and we've got a gray background on it, okay? The thing is, here on my input, by default, for sure, I want to put a margin bottom of 1 because I don't want to have anything that sticks to my input. So I already got this, and yeah, well, the thing is, here I'm going to add a new disable background, and background is going to be BG, let's say 200. Even if we already got a gray one, okay, it's too much. Let's say 100. Yeah, it's better. Okay, here we see more that it's disabled. Okay, so up there I got this, and let's say that as a placeholder, so I'm going to get back, and I'm going to add a placeholder, and it's going to be email, for instance. There we go. We got, yes, it was on the, actually, it was on this one. There we go. There we go. So I got email there. Let's say that I want to have my placeholder on italic. What I'm going to do, I'm going to type placeholder, and here is going to be italic. I'm going to save this, and there we go. We see now that my placeholder is on italic. Input type date. Can I work on it? Of course. So here I got my input type date. So what I'm going to do basically is maybe to keep a bit the same behavior, okay? So I'm going to put input type date, and down there we will see what are the class I will keep for this. So here I'm going to type apply, and it's going to be also outline none, border. There we go. I think it's going to be the same as this, okay? So I'm going to add this. And what's going to happen? There we go. We've got our input date here with the same class, the basic class. So maybe I can put this. We will check that after. But maybe I can just take this class there, okay, and say that all the input will be like this. So when I get back, okay, I got all the inputs that have applied this class. So I can remove those, okay? And now all my inputs will have as a basis what I chose before. And that's good to do that because sometimes you want in your application to keep some kind of coherence between elements. You want that all the elements that you have, such as this input, get the same design. So if I'm changing one day the rounded, I just want to put rounded instead of rounded SM, and I think I'm going to take that. As you see, it has been applied to my input date and my input text. Let's say that we would have an input number, it would be exactly the same. So if I want to change also the color of the text I'm writing in, I could directly do it there. So I'm going to type text slate, and I'm going to add a gray like this, and I'm going to save, and we don't see it that much, but it's a bit gray. So I'm going to lower the grayness of it. And there we go. And as we see here, we've got the class there. When we have a checkbox, basically we have the input checkbox, and we have also the label next to it. So when I get back there, I got my label and my checkbox. Let's start with the checkbox. So we've got an input type checkbox, okay, and nothing changed on it. So what I got to do is just to put an input type and then checkbox, there we go. And inside I'm going to apply a class. And I'm going to say that on checked, I want to have a BG red 500. So let's see what's going to happen. And we see that nothing is happening. To work, we need to say first that we don't want that it keeps his appearance. And for that, we are using appearance known. So you change the color by saying appearance known, then say checked and the BG. So I'm going to get back. And when I click, we see that I don't got nothing anymore. I just got this little square, and I really ask myself what happened there. When saying that you don't want any appearance, you are removing also the check. This solution is not the best because we are missing the check icon inside. So what we should do instead, we are going to remove this appearance known. And what we're going to see is that it's not going to change the behavior of my checkbox. It will stay in blue. What I would do instead is to use accent. So here I'm going to get the example, accent, and here we're going to put purple again. And let's put purple 500. And there we go. We got accent purple 500. And when I click, there we go. The color is changing. The color of my checkbox. What we could do also is that we got a label there, and we know that our input is next to our label all the time. So what I could do is to just add a class to my label, because I will always know that this label will be on the top of an input or next to it to specify something about the input. So what I would do is just to add a specific size. So I would say that I would have text small, and then I would have a text slate, and let's say that it would be a bit gray. So let's go and let's see what's gonna happen. Okay, I got it. And next to my input type checkbox, I would always put some kind of margin. So margin to the right, margin 2 maybe. 2 is a bit too much. I'm going to put 1, and there we go. And maybe I would add a bit of font. So I would do font and medium, I would say medium. Yes, there we go. That would be good. Okay, so now we've got a checkbox that's working with the checkbox label there. And let's say that we're going to add some lorem ipsum to it. Okay, a big text. As we see there, we would have the checkbox that will be on top of our text, and that's not necessarily something that we want. So just by using Tailwind, we know that we can use flex. However, it already happened that our text was next to our checkbox. And there we go. What's going to happen is that with flex, it's going to cut our div in two parts, one part for the checkbox, the other part for the text. So what we have there is that we got the checkbox, which is on the middle of our text element. So we can inspect that. And when we inspect, we see that our checkbox is on the middle. And of course, the checkbox has a margin that we don't necessarily want. To put items start. And what's going to happen is that the flex box is going to put our item on first, actually. Okay. And here we got a new problem. The new problem is that we have our checkbox there. Okay, we have a checkbox there. And we have the text that is not beginning at the right line. We want it to begin at the basis. What we could do to align the text with the checkbox, it's to add to our label a specific line 8. So let's say that we're going to put line 8, and here I'm going to put 4 because I know that 4 is 1 rem. When I get back, here we see that it's a bit better. However, our text is very compressed. So what we could do is to play with the flex and say that we want to align those two items, or we could play with the checkbox. So I'm going to get back on the checkbox, and if I define that this checkbox will be always in this situation, I can go directly into my input type checkbox there and put a margin top of 1, for instance. And suddenly I got something in the situation that I don't want to be. It's not necessarily on the line. So what I could do is instead putting a 0.5. And what's going to happen now is that we have our checkbox immediately and directly on the line of my element. So you see, sometimes with Tailwind CSS, we can play with elements just to get our design right. I'm going to put some margin on the top and on the bottom to continue the course. And there we go, here we are. Let's continue. Now we've got a select. And the select, it's a very good topic to work with Tailwind CSS because there are many selects that we could create. The first select that we could create is the original select from HTML, which is this one. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to get back to globals, and there I'm going to type my select, and I'm going to apply my class. And first, what I want to inherit from, it's this input, because remember, this input there has some space and stuff. So maybe what I could do is to use this input, outline, etc., etc. So I'm going to type this, and there we go. Suddenly my option take the size and the design of the other inputs. That's cool. However, now I got two lines that looks exactly the same. So what I could do is, instead of having those two elements there, okay, is just doing this. What I could do is just to put my select up there. So now my input and my select will look exactly the same, and it is working. Of course, if I want to do something different, if I want to have some classes that I had to my select, now I can do it directly in here. So let's say that I would have a padding right of 8 instead of what I'm irritating up there. There we go. I got a select that got more options there. All right. Another thing that we could do is to create our own select. And to create our own select, what I would do is beginning by creating my own piece of component. Let's imagine that later it will be in a component and it will work this way. What I would do is that for now I'm going to just commenting this. And here I'm going to create a div, and this div would have a class name of select. Okay. And there, what I would have is a box. And this div would be my first option, my selected option. My selected option to go on the bottom. And here I'm going to mix, okay, this selected there. And I'm going to say, I want to apply block, okay? If I want him to stay on hold the line, or I want to apply inline block, all right? And suddenly, there we go. Okay. It looks like a select, but it's not a select. And to be a select, I would add also my, actually padding right, sorry. Padding right 8, there we go. And what I would need to do is just that when I pass my mouse on it, I would like to have a cursor pointer. So I would do cursor pointer, there we go. And let's say that I would like to have a background effect. So as always, I would use on hover, and I would add BG slate, and it would be a very low BG slate. There we go. So now I pass on my mouse, and there we go. Okay, I would like also to add a transition to it. Okay, that's good. Then what I would do is to have a list of options down there. So what I can say is that I would have a div, and in this div I would have option 1, then option 2, then option 3. All right. So I got this happening right now. When I'm going to click on my selected option, I will have this list triggered there. And remember, with Flex, that's exactly what we can do. We would like to have something like this. So I'm going to get back, and I'm going to say, hey, actually it's going to be a class name of Flex, and it's going to be a flex call and divide y. So flex call divide y. All right. Then I'm going to get back. And there we go. That's what's happening. However, we see that we've got a big problem. The problem is that we are inheriting from the classes of the input. So we've got this padding inside that is cutting my options. And here it's the same. So what I would do is, of course, to remove this select from there, because this is not exactly what I want. Right now, I'm reserving this style to the select and input. However, for the select, I would have basically to keep it as it is. So basically I'm going to copy paste what I need for the custom select. So I'm going to take all of this and I'm going to go down and it's going to go here exactly on the select. There we go. What we want to do up there on Next.js 13 is to call useClient, then to use the state of React and set a variable isOpen on the use state false. So for now, our select will not be open. And down there, what we do is that when we click on my selected option, so on the select, we are going to set isOpen on the opposite value of its current state. And when it is open, it's going to show a list or not. So when I get back and I update, when I click, okay, there we go. We've got actually the options there and it's working very well. However, for the design, it's not that again. So we need to get back and to remove this padding and margin that we have, and especially this padding right 8. So, and the hover, I think we can also remove it because we don't want it for now. And when we get back, yes, there we are. So the padding that we want to have, actually, it's on every element there, okay? So basically what we could do is to put a class, another class, which will be a select children, okay? So my select option will not be anything than a value, okay? That will be set by default. So when I get up there, what I need to do is to create another select value, actually. So select value and set select value. There we go, user state, which will be by default on option 1. All right. So I got my select value. And then here, what I can put is my select value. As we see, I got my option. And what I need to do is to put a width, a minimal width. So here it's going to be, let's try 30. And when I get back, okay, I got the width 30. It's almost the same as this one. So the first one, it's going to be of class child. And here, what I can do is to say that select.child will have this padding. So I'm going to apply what? Of course, my px to py1. Okay, then I get back. And there we go. I got something that looks a bit the same. I got my class child that has been applied. And as we see, my options there, I can click and open or close. What I would like to do also is to add maybe this child to every element there. So let's try class name is equal to child, and I update. And there we go. We see that we've got all our elements. However, we miss this border that we could have there. So what I can do is just going to my UL and just put a border T. There we go. And let's see what's going to happen when I click. I got my border down there. I'm going to target my select UL Li, and I can apply on hover my BG slate, let's say 100. So when I get back, I click, and when I pass, we see that I got this effect. And of course, what I can do now, I can say that when I'm going to click on it, it's going to change my selected value. What I can do after is to create a function, update value, with the set selected value that will be received as a parameter, which will be a string here. And of course, when I'm going to click on a value, I want to close my select. So what I would do, I would set as open on false. So when I get down on my list element, I would say that on click, I would update the value with the current value, which here is just a string for the demonstration. So when I get back, I update, I click on my select and I click on option 3, and suddenly I got option 3. If I go on option 2, suddenly I got option 2. However, we missed a last thing, and this last thing is the arrow that we could have here. So what we're going to do, we are going to catch an icon and we are going to set an effect to it because we want that when we click, our arrows go from the bottom to the top. So let's catch an icon right now. On icon.js.org, I'm going to search for an icon which will be an arrow down, all right? And yes, this one is cool, okay? I got this arrow that I got there, and I'm going to just copy paste the component, which is actually a SVG. So back in my app, what I'm going to do here is just to create a new file, okay? It's going to be arrow down.ts6, there we go. And I don't think I downloaded it as a txt. There we go, okay. So now I'm going to put that, and I got this arrow. So what I can do, I can just change the name, okay, arrow down, all right. And I'm going to import this arrow just here next to my value. So I import my arrow, and I put my arrow next to my select value. But the thing is, right now, as we see, this is not the effect that I want. So what I need to do is to put this select value into a span. And here, as a class name on my child, I'm just going to add a flex because I don't necessarily want it to have after this. Okay, I got the flex. I want the item center, and I want to justify between because I want some space between my two elements. And there we go. We've got our select, and when we click, it is working. Now I want that when I click, I want to rotate this arrow to the top. And if I get back to the official documentation and I click on rotate, I might want something like rotate 180 degrees, okay? So if I take this class and I get back to my app and I go to my arrow down, which is here, what I would like to do is to add this class directly there and to rotate it. So here is a trick. Here I can create a div with a rotate 100, and I'm going to put the arrow inside of it. So if I update, suddenly we see that I got my arrow on the top. But this is not what I want. I would like to create a conditional class. What I want to know is that if it's open, and if it's open, I want to rotate 180. Otherwise, I want to rotate 0. I want to let it at its basic state. So I update, and there we go. It is working. We can add, if we want, some transition to it. So both of them, we're going to save that. I'm going to update. And when I click, we've got a quick transition to it. So we succeed to create our own select. Congratulations, you have created your first design system. Okay, it was short, it was quick, but it's enough to give some identity to your website thanks to Tailwind. So now you can use all these elements if you want to create your own application, and you can replicate all these elements to create an entire front-end application.